Hi you guys, it's Tonya Gibbs, and today I want to share with you an art journal tutorial. This is one of the Art Girl projects for Yvonne Blair Designs, and today I am going to feature a couple of her stamps from Impression Obsession. This is the Shine the Unique Light that is only yours to shine, and I'm also going to use the Sketch Twig stamp. We're also going to use her journal buddy that she designed, as well as the 4x8 art journal. Again, I will put a link to all of the products that we use today in a blog post, and that link will be down below in the description box for your convenience. So I hope you go check out that blog post for more details about this project and some photos of the finished project. We're also going to use these Stampers Big Brush Artist Pens, and again, a list of all of these fabulous colors will be included in that blog post. So let's go ahead and get started on our project. This is the journal that Yvonne has designed, and I absolutely love it. As you can see, it lays completely flat, even from the center of the journal, which is awesome. Makes it very easy to work in. It's a great size to carry around for travel and that kind of thing. It's very narrow, so it's perfect for your Bible journals if you do not want to actually do Bible journaling inside of a Bible. This would be a perfect size for that, for your scriptures and things. I am pre-gessoing the page for the project that I'm working on. These are a manila cardstock that is a very thick manila cardstock, so it's perfect for your mixed media projects. So what I've done is, after the gesso has dried, I am now just taking a pencil and marking where my sentiment will land on the page so that I do not cover that up. Then I'm going to use my journal buddy on the ruler side, and I'm going to freehand out my lighthouse. Now I did keep this at somewhat of an angle so that the top is a little narrow, and then it comes out to a little bit wider at the base. If you are not comfortable with hand drawing out or sketching a lighthouse, you could certainly go into your electronic cutters or die cutting systems, and there are plenty of alternatives for die cutting out lighthouses and things like that. But lighthouses are a pretty simple straight line line art to draw. So I encourage you to try. You could try on a couple of pieces of scratch paper until you perfected it, but it's basically just straight lines, and the Journal Buddy makes this very easy. So now I'm going to use the wavy side of the Journal Buddy to just sketch out some landscape here for the waves of my ocean as well as my beachfront. Go ahead and erase any of the unwanted lines from your sketch, and then you can use the straight edge of your Journal Buddy to draw out any straight lines, but I'm just going to freehand these out on the house section of my lighthouse, and then once again go into the house area and delete any of the unwanted sketch lines. Now I am sketching this a little dark so that you can see it on a video, but when you're sketching in your art journal, I would suggest sketching it just a little bit lighter than this. It's not going to matter for the finished piece, but the lighter you do this, the easier it'll be to cover up the sketch marks. So I'm using the Cobalt Green 156 and Phthalo Blue 110 as my blue tones, and I'm going to start applying that first. And I'm going to be very careful about which order I add these pigments, because if you go from blue to yellow, you're going to make green. So I want to make sure I add these in a certain order. I'm going from the blue to the pink, and the pink is Pink Matter Lake 129. That way, if the blue touches the pink, I get a nice purple tone. And then from the pink, I'm going to go to Scarlet Red 118, which is a nice muted orange color. And then from the orangey tone, I'm going to go to a Cadmium Yellow 107. So since there's gesso at the base and I'm adding these with water, I'm toning them down. They're becoming somewhat transparent, and they're a little lighter tone. So to achieve the richness that I want, I'm just going to keep applying the color over and over again and patting it in and blending it until I get the color I want. Remember, blue to orange is always going to make brown, so be very careful when you're mixing these that you're applying the pigment in the right order. And you want to stay, you know, yellow and orange are touching, orange and pink are touching, and blue and pink are touching. That will avoid the muddy colors in your background. Also, make sure that you are rotating your baby wipe so that your baby wipe isn't contaminating your colors as you're going as well. And notice I'm rotating my finger around as I'm patting pigment around too, so that I'm not contaminating the pigment with my finger. The nice thing about using Stampers Big Brush Artist Pens is that it is India ink. Once it dries, it's permanent. I don't have to worry about moving color once it's dry. So now it's intense. It's on fire. That's the color. That's the color that I'm after. Let's move on to our sunset. So down here at my horizon where my sunset is, I want to actually remove a little bit of color and then come back and add this intense yellow, which is the cadmium yellow. And I'm going to just add a really good ball of yellow here. And using my Journal Buddy, and to maintain the integrity of my horizon, I am going to just rub that color around really well. It's going to give me a really good crisp horizon because I'm using that to mask off the rest of the area. And then I noticed from some other reference photos that I use that sometimes it's the absence of color that gives that really rich pop of light. So using my baby wipe, I'm actually removing pigment. Since my background surface is got gesso on it, I can use the baby wipe to remove the India ink pigment until this has had time to cure. So that's where I'm using these streaks. I'm, you know, just using my finger to remove that pigment to add those streaks of light. We'll put more pigment down later, but this is just going to give it that streaks of bands of sunshine light that we're after. So the red that I'm using here is the Deep Scarlet Red 219. And I'm going to apply that to the roof of my lighthouse, and then I'm also going to add it to the little spindles here in this top ridge here, and then I'm also going to add it to the roof of my house portion. And now I am using the calligraphy pen because I wanted the chisel edge for a real good sharp edge to just kind of go around and give some outlines to the roof, as well as some of the areas that would be kind of like a cast iron accents around the top of my lighthouse. And then I'm also going to give it the edging around the sides of my lighthouse, using my Journal Buddy as a guide to make sure my lines are good and straight. Now, as some advice, you do want to make sure that any gesso or any of the Stampers Big Brush Artist Pen inking that you have done is completely dry before you use that calligraphy pen, because the nibs are pretty finicky about writing over other mediums. So here I'm using the Stampers Big Brush Artist Pen in White 101, and ordinarily it would write over anything that is here, but this one is pretty dried up. So I'm going to kind of place it to the side right now and pull out some gesso and fill in this area just to kind of cover up some of this overspray that I had before and my pencil marks. Ordinarily this the pen would have done the trick, but like I said, mine is just, I need a new one. I need to order a new one. So then here I go with filling in the roof on top of my house as well. I just love this red. This is just a really good rich red. So I'm going to add that there and allow that gesso to dry completely. And then I'm also going to gesso in my house area because I want that to be good, crisp, and white as well. I don't know if you guys have ever been around a lighthouse or not, but I think they get painted every day because they're always crisp and white, and I don't know how they do it, but other than just painting them all the time. Now, like I said, you do want to make sure your gesso is really good and white. If you ever found that your pens are just not working on top of your paint or your acrylic paint, typically it's because you're not allowing the paint to completely dry or cure. If you will allow it to dry or cure overnight even is best. If you're going to do any kind of journaling or anything, you'll find you get better results. I must admit though, I have absolutely zero patience, so you're going to see me struggle back and forth and go back and forth, but just tenacity is a big thing in my world. So here I am putting back in the red details, finer details, and then here I go struggling with that pen. Um, Again, just put it to the side, let it dry, and then if your nibs become a little contaminated, if you'll put them to the side and then just take a baby wipe and wipe them off and then just scribble off on a piece of paper, typically it's the gesso just builds up on the nibs, and if you can get that gesso off before they have a chance to dry, then you can usually recover them pretty well. So now I'm coming back with the black Stampers Big Brush Artist pen. I think it's 199, and you can fill in the stripes on my lighthouse. They don't have to be exact, just throw in a couple of little stripes here and there. And I will say I'm trying to keep it a little bit darker towards the edges, and you'll see me take my finger and just kind of buff out the center of that stripe just a bit. That's just going to give it a little bit of a shine there in the center and make my lighthouse look a little more cylinder in shape, because it'll give it that nice shine in the center to give it a more rounded look. And if you'll notice, I did scribble off my pen there on my mat, and that was just to get the gesso off of my pen nib, so it would draw a little better. Now I'm going to come back in with that cadmium yellow and fill in the center where the light would be shining, and then I took some of that yellow and put it on my acrylic block, and I'm flicking some of that color back down into those rays of light. I'm also spilling some of that light over onto the catwalk area there on the top of my lighthouse too, because the light would be filtering down over the top of everything if the light were on. I'm going to allow all of that to dry really good, hit it with that heat gun again, and then come back in and let's fill in some of that bottom area. So I've taken some of that green gold 268 and I'm adding that down at the bottom where the landscaping would be. And as I was doing that, I really wanted this to be a beachy, sandy bottom. And initially, I was going to put some seagrass and a fence and all of that coming up to the lighthouse. And then I thought, you know what? You have this lighthouse, but you have no water. What is going on in this picture? So I decided to go in and add some water in, and decided that I have such a narrow palette here, it's getting kind of hard to have room for beach. So I shift gears a little bit here in a minute, so you'll see me kind of change my mind a little bit. I'm using the May Green number 170 to with the sketch twig stamp to add that kind of seagrass look to my beachfront. And then I came back in with that Phthalo Blue 110 to add my water, and just using a baby wipe to kind of smear it across to give it a nice even horizon look. And that's just water that I'm applying to that baby wipe. And as I smear it across, I realized I really want a reflection in that water, so I'm going to be super careful. And when I say super careful, I mean it, because you don't want, when you're blending this, you don't want to take that yellow and really blend too much, because you don't want it to turn green. But I wanted a little hint of pink and a little hint of yellow inside that blue water, but I just didn't want it to turn to mud. So being super, super careful not to make that muddy or green, I did want that reflection from the sky to be down into that water. So then I'm going to come back in with the white and just sort of clean up my my house a little bit, and then flick some of that white back over into the ocean area so I can get a few little white caps and some reflection in that water as well. And sometimes it's these little teeny tiny details that will help bring your journaling to life. And then using the curve again up in the top, I'm going to build out a few little clouds in the sky as well. So now I found a little sea sponge in my stash, and I'm going to pounce on a few little sea sprays coming up over the top of my lighthouse. And that's when it occurred to me I really didn't have enough water coming over onto my page. I wanted a little more water. It just wasn't feeling oceany enough for me. And when the tide comes up and it's spraying up onto this lighthouse, I felt like pools of water would probably begin to collect over on to the beachfront as well. So this is where I decide to rethink my plan for my front here. and I pull out that blue and then flip my journal buddy around and decide to build out kind of like a little shorefront here, like as if the tide had come up onto the shore. So again, taking that baby wipe and just smearing that around. Now it's a little harder to work this color around right here because again, some of this pigment below has started to dry. But again, you would see all of these different textures and depths if the tide had pulled up over to the shore, because all of these other elements would have still been there. The seagrass and everything would have still been below. So the fact that these are still a little bit translucent and you can see some of these other textures from below just add to the scenery, I think. So again, using that journal buddy to maintain the shoreline integrity, I think it just added to it. And then taking that sponge to add the sea splashes and things like that, just give it a little bit more texture, and it also just offers that little bit of detail that makes it all kind of come to life. So you know, look in your stash for things that you can add details like this, just little teeny tiny details. You know, and then coming back in with that stamp to continue out some of that seagrass, you know, layering and things like that. Just give a little bit of fun detail down here in the base of this drawing. And now, once again, I'm just doing some hairline detail cleanup to these areas. So now it's time to just, the gesso's had a chance to dry on that little house area. I want to make sure it's really, really good and dry before I reach for my pen again. And now I'm just going to add some shingles and just some, you know, siding to the side of my house. Again, just the small details are what make the drawing come to life. And I could literally just sit here for hours adding these little fine details like this. It's very relaxing for me, and I think that's what art journaling is all about. It's when mojo leaves the building and I cannot think of a single thing in the world to do, and it's just one of those exercises in creative freedom and just, you know, playing with art mediums and getting your mind thinking in a different way. So now I'm coming back with the cold gray I-230 and just adding a few shadows to the drawing. That gives it a little bit of depth and dimension and gives everything a roundness to it. Then I came back with my archival ink in jet black, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment here onto my journal pad. And it's going to finish out my painting. I think I come back in with a white gel pen and just add a few highlights and a few other little small details. And then I came back with a Uniball 207 impact pen, to permanent pen, to add a few, like the catwalk railings, cast iron railings around the catwalk area, and then a few windows there on my lighthouse. I added the black windows in the white areas and the white windows into the black areas. And I have the perfect little lighthouse now. It's such a fun little opening here for my journal. And here's a close-up photo. You can really see all that texture from the painting, and I just absolutely love this. The colors are so vibrant. The Stampers Big Brush Artist Pens are so vibrant. I love using that journal buddy in a different way other than just for its intended purpose of just journaling. The crisp lines really kind of give this a really nice feeling. The stamp is just gorgeous. I love this journal book. I love the thickness of the cardstock in this, and it did not warp. It's completely flat. I absolutely love it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget that all of the products that were used today are in a blog post that is linked up down below for your convenience. If you decide to try any of these techniques and you share them in social media, please hashtag following Tonya Gibbs so that I can see what you guys are creating based on what I have taught you. If you've enjoyed this production today, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and don't forget to share this with a friend.